I'm going to begin, Hailee, by just asking, I mean, the film is incredibly sort of tongue-in-cheek and it affectionately abides by the kind of formula of the kind of teen high school drama, but at the same time ridicules it, subverts it. But that's something that very much comes across when you're watching the kind of finished product. Were you ever quite concerned when sort of signing on of which way it might go? Because it must have been it's a sort of fine line, I guess.
Sure. This was a very fine line that everyone walks in this movie. The approach to the movie in general was very bold. I just remember thinking that it never felt too much and it never felt too little in any way. I really, truly felt like it was just honest and real on all fronts, from the language especially.
And do you think that the only way now to sort of triumph in this subgenre is to kind of subvert it? Because I guess as a kind of formula, it's been sort of done to death, I guess. I mean, do you think now we have to take a different approach, a unique approach to this genre?
I don't know that there really is a right or wrong way or a specific unique approach. I think just being as real as possible is the goal. Kelly Fremon Craig, who directed this movie, spent months and months and months talking to teenagers about them, about their lives, about their situations, and she would talk to every, without calling them stereotypes, she would talk to every type of teenager that there was, and she put together this story that feels really real.
It's a remarkable debut for her from behind the camera. I mean, do you think there's ever sort of an enthusiasm that only first-time filmmakers have? That must be quite infectious, I guess, on set.
Absolutely. It's funny being in that position sort of where I'm working with somebody on their first movie, where not too long ago people were working with me on my first movie. And there definitely is an enthusiasm and just a constant drive and determination and curiosity. I mean, she just was amazing. Again, she had such a bold approach to making this movie, and she had such a deep understanding of this character, being both writer and director of the movie. But yeah, she really was awesome.
And one of my favourite things about this film is that Nadine is always kind of, well, a lot of the time she's actually in the wrong, and you actually side with the mother or you side with the brother or classmates. But the whole way through you remain on her side. Was that quite a challenge, do you think, to ensure? But did you and Kelly speak about sort of maintaining that she was flawed and made mistakes, but we always sort of rooted for her nonetheless?
Yeah, absolutely. Our conversations about this character and who she was and how we could balance that sort of seamlessly started during the auditioning process. And that was definitely a challenge for me, sort of figuring out how I could make this character remain likable through all of the unlikable actions that she takes. And I guess it all boils down to the sort of authenticity of a human being, sort of having a certain approach to a situation where you're like, wow, you're actually not that great of a person, but at the same time, how else were you meant to handle it?
And you would think that the role would almost require hindsight, in a sense that almost to look back over what we were like when we were 17, you have to have sort of quite a big gap to sort of remember what it was like and also to sort of play on that. But you've only obviously had like a couple of years, but do you think that's still enough of a kind of time difference and sort of such a formulative kind of time that you're able to kind of look back and remember those years in quite a way that's quite, I don't know, unique, I guess?
I feel like I'm just starting to feel that way. I'll be 20 in less than a month, and I feel like this movie really is sort of my teen years in 2 hours. This represents sort of any feeling I've ever had. I was really able to just emote through this character and her story. But I don't know that I feel as far removed enough to look back on it just yet. But I don't know. I don't know.
But I mean, do you think that, because I mean, you've played roles, characters who are very mature for their age, obviously True Grit sort of springs to mind in that regard. But do you think, is it actually harder in some ways to play a character who's very much of their age?
Yeah. It's funny because having played roles, like you said, that are sort of wise beyond their years or more mature than their age or older than I was at the time, more of those were period pieces than contemporary pieces. And I'd always struggled with contemporary pieces, feeling like there was some line that I couldn't cross over because I didn't feel connected to it in some way. And it was only with contemporary pieces that had happened. But when this came along, there was something about just I don't know if it was how well it was written, again, or how real and honest it was, but it really felt good and it felt true to the age.
I mean, considering you've been in the industry for a few years now, but have you got to a point now where you very much pick your roles based on what you just want to do? I mean, or do you still require that kind of support network from your parents or friends, or you still want to hear their input and to help you kind of make those decisions?
I really do feel like I am now able to make decisions based on what it is I want to do and what I want to spend my time on, and if it's something I feel I can do justice, but I do value so many people's opinions on my team, my parents, and definitely always run everything by them before I make my final decision.
Because, I mean, obviously, when you sort of burst onto the scene, well, in cinema with True Grit, obviously with the Oscar nomination, stuff like that, I mean, it was kind of incredible. I mean, how have you kind of remained level-headed, and have you kind of stayed kind of with your feet on the ground, I guess?
Well, my parents have a lot to do with that. I really honestly do feel as well that on my first movie, True Grit, I worked with people that, I mean, one I'll never forget, but learning from the greats, having been taught so many lessons daily, one being you come to work every day because it's where you want to be, it's what you want to do, and you're passionate about the project, and you're there to make it the best you could possibly be. You go home to your family, you come back the next day and do it again, and that's why I do what I do.
But I mean, if you look at your sort of career, I mean, you've done so many different films in different genres. Is that a sort of conscious decision for you to keep trying new stuff and to keep it kind of exciting, and also show that you can do a variety of roles?
Absolutely. It in no way has been planned, but it's interesting sort of looking back on the genres that I've been a part of. In such a short amount of time, I went from a Western to a sci-fi to a Shakespeare and a musical type movie. But yeah, it's definitely an element of excitement and newness.
So what do you think it is then that makes you think, right, this is a project I want to take on?
The script, the material, the role itself, the people that are involved have a huge part in it.
And one very exciting one, obviously, coming up is Pitch Perfect 3.
Yes.
I mean, what can you tell us about that? I mean, at this stage, I mean, what can we expect from your character in that movie?
Oh my goodness, please believe me, I know nothing, which is crazy considering I believe we're starting very, very soon, which is exciting, I guess, because I'm figuring out with the rest of the world. But I am so excited to be a part of the third one. I love being part of the second, and I look forward to seeing where this character goes.
It's pretty cool as well that you're able to combine your kind of two major talents in acting and singing.
Yes, I mean, I'd been making music on my own up until I made that movie. I started releasing it to the world. So that will definitely be fun, having now become a recording artist, going back to the movie that kind of started it all.
So how are you finding the balancing act between being a recording artist and an actress? I mean, and do you define yourself as one or the other?
I don't. I define myself as both. I'm a performer and an entertainer. And in terms of balancing both, timing-wise, it can get a little complicated. But I don't know. As long as I can manage doing it the way I'm doing it now, I'm gonna try.
And it's extremely early days, but whenever, obviously speaking to you now, whenever I've seen you sort of do interviews in the past, you speak so eloquently about film and your craft. I mean, do you have any ambition to work behind the scenes, producing, directing, writing, that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. I would love nothing more than to direct a film or even produce one. I think being a part of a project where you are just a part of creating it from the ground up. I have had the honor of joining a film in the very, very early stages and in the last sort of final stages where they're just waiting on that one more person. And both are amazing, but I would love to experience what it's like to really form something.
So do you find that when you're sort of working, are you sort of watching directors' work and are you kind of absorbing everything and taking it all in?
Absolutely, absolutely. There are so many times where I'm like, oh my God, I have got to remember exactly what they said to me so that one day when I'm talking to my actors, I can say the same thing. And especially working with somebody like Kelly, who it was her first feature, and seeing that, I mean, I'm like, wow, anytime I've had the honor of working with some amazing people that truly inspire me.
Yeah, that's her first feature. I'm looking forward to what she does next.
Me too.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey You Guys!